friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here with a video for Create a Smile stamps. Although today I actually won't be using any of their stamps, I'll be using a few of their stencils and some of their die cuts. Today I decided to pull out an old supply that I haven't used in a while, and that is Distress Stain. I recently came up with a new organization system in my craft room which allowed my distress stains to come out of their drawer and be displayed in a more visible area to kind of encourage me to use them and some of the other supplies in my new display. And so I, said, I'm going to find a purpose for these. I'm going to make sure that I use them very, very soon. And so I decided to do some rainbow inking through a stencil, but with the stains instead of the distress inks, which I also have and enjoy, but this gives a pretty different look. They're translucent, so they're kind of fun to use in that way, and they sort of blend on top of each other, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm putting a little bit of the orange on top of the pink and then a little bit of the yellow on top of the orange to sort of blend them together. But they are much more translucent than even the regular distress inks, but the distress oxide inks are considerably less translucent, which gives them a nicer blend in some ways. But anyway, the colors that I'm using, if you're curious, are Picked Raspberry, Spiced Marmalade, Squeezed Lemonade, Mowed Lawn, Salty Ocean, and then on the two other cards I'll be using Peacock Feathers and Seedless Preserves. Here on this first card, I didn't really leave enough room to get to the purple, and I have a problem doing that sometimes with rainbows. I'm never sure quite how many I should, how many rows I should be doing. With the Big Hearts Polka stencil, it actually would have been really easy to count the rows, like find out, hey, I was supposed to use about one heart per color. But, what is it? Hindsight's 2020. I realize that now that I'm at the bottom of the card. But I'm going to clear off that stencil. Sometimes I will actually use the ink that's left on the stencil, but with the distress stains, it kind of pools up and doesn't make as nice of an impression. I cut all of these rainbow backgrounds that I created with various different Create a Smile stencils, and I cut them with the Cat Scrappiness Distressed Edge rectangles, but then I'm going to cut a bunch of die cut pieces from some black cardstock with some different dies from Create a Smile. I'm using the magical frames to create the postage stamp type frame. I'm using their pocket tag for that leaf branch piece, and then their tiny sentiments for the tiny hello word. I love the tiny sentiments set because I really like word dies, but a lot of times to get even just one word, it's usually about like $5 or $6, sometimes even more, and they are much larger often, but these tiny hellos and tiny other sentiments that come in the set, and they have a wide variety. You can get multiple occasions. I think that retails for €18. So it's, if you want to get a lot of word dies at a reasonable price and you like the small size, definitely a great one, and one that I've reached for on multiple occasions. So I used the Lots of Stars stencil from Create a Smile as well. And it's another kind of hindsight thing where ultimately I did not feel like it went as well with the leaves that I wanted to use later. That the rainbow and the stars just were, very bright and fun, and I liked the way the card came out because I just skipped the leaf, but the leaf design to me just didn't really mesh with the star stencil, which is totally fine because I'm not trying to make every single one of the cards exactly the same. However, I did want to try to use some basic things that were the same. So they're all cut with the same distressed edge die. They're all on a piece of black cardstock to separate them from the card base. If you've watched my channel, you know this. I love black on top of and behind rainbows. I just feel like it really makes the colors pop. And I'd like to say that with the distress stain, I, had a bunch of colors and I picked these because they were really bright and fun, but it's really just the only distress stains I have. I just don't have a lot of them. I kind of have one of every color, and I saved my favorite colors. So, at the time that I picked them up, those were some of my favorite colors because they were some of the brightest in the palette. The Seedless Preserves, I would probably trade out for Wilted Violet if I could because I like the Wilted Violet as a purple better, but this combination makes for a really bright, fun background. To finish off the cards, as you can see, I'm just kind of fitting together some of the die cuts. I used Ken Oliver Stick It tape behind all of my black cardstock. And the reason that I wanted to do that is because it will make it really easy to adhere all these fussy bits. You could use glue behind them, but the distress stain, like all distress products, are water reactive. And so if I were to get some of the glue seeping out the edges, it would actually make the distress stain react. And I would rather not do that. I would rather it, not get modified by that. So that's why I'm using a dry adhesive like the Stick It. I've used Elizabeth Crafts tape before, but because the Elizabeth Crafts tape itself is so thick, it doesn't die cut as well, even with my metal shim. So I'm a fan of the Stick It. I'm not a huge fan of how expensive it is, but I understand kind of there's a reason for the cost because it is a little bit unique. And so even though I've been hoarding it, I've started, for a few years, I think now at this point, I've started using it recently, and I'm realizing I'm going to just have to break down and pay for it and find a sale and whatever, because it really is great behind die cuts. And especially these detail, like that little tiny hello. I mean, even if you weren't concerned about the adhesive coming out, it's hard to even kind of handle that. And one of the reasons the video is a little bit longer is because just even the Stick It does take a little bit of time to try to get it to peel off those little pieces. I use tweezers to help me with it, or my scissors to kind of hold part of it while I'm peeling it off, or, while I'm trying to place it down or something like that, just because they are tiny. Tiny is not a bad thing for design, but, in terms of handling can be a little bit trickier. And I really like the way that distressed edge die bring out the rainbow colors. And I was also trying to make it kind of look like the leaves were coming right out of the edge, and almost like it was an interesting die cut from there, as opposed to just layered on top. When you look really closely, you can kind of see all those elements aren't attached, but at first it kind of looks like the leaves are attached to the side of that frame or attached to the background edge. So that's it for my cards today. I hope you liked this look at an old product used again, and if you have some distress stains in your stash, I hope you give them a try and create something fun. I will leave you links in the video description below to the coordinating blog post and to the products that I used. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day. Bye.